Well, another week, and it's time for another Hot Air Sports podcast with me, Macca, and my good, clean-shaven mate, Mahon. Good to see you basically there, Aaron.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I slipped with the razor, so I thought I may as well go all the way. This is my first time clean-shaven for about 10 years, mate. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to get used to. I might have to grow it back, I think. But anyway, we'll see how we go.
Yes, well, it only took you one shot to do that. It took the Phoenix 31 shots on the weekend, and they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And are now out of the competition, sadly, going down by 1-0 against Perth Glory. It was a interesting game. The Phoenix, I think, had about 64% of the ball, but just, as I say, couldn't score.
We were worried, weren't we? Before we talked last week, and we both said we were worried that they weren't doing the business. I sort of hoped that, because it was the playoffs, that they'd raise their games and raise their game. Once again, though, proving that the hardest thing in football is to put the ball in the back of the net. It's just so frustrating to watch. I mean, Saturio, how many shots do you need, mate? He couldn't hit a barn door. We just needed a striker. If Hoop had been there, we would have won 3. We would have got 3, I reckon. But just sad way to see them go after such a promising season.
It just goes to show, doesn't it, how, you have guys in the team that don't do a lot during the game, but once the opportunity comes up in front of goal, bang, there it is. It's in. I mean, you think back to the 1980s, Clive Allen was an absolute master at doing that. He
Absolutely.
His general play was never really anything to write home about, but give him the ball in front of goal, 1-0.
Exactly. Gary Lineker was a bit like that too, wasn't he? Just a predator, a fox in the box. That's what you want. And Gary Hooper was the man. He got injured. Once again, we don't have someone to put it in the back of the net, and that's all she wrote for the Phoenix. I thought some of the refereeing was once again very poor, but that's the way it goes. New Zealand team in an Australian comp, we're sort of used to it, aren't we, buddy?
Yeah, we certainly are. And I think just to rub salt in the wounds was Western United, who are coached by former Phoenix coach Mark Redan, getting through over the Brisbane Roar 1-0. But, man, what a fantastic goal.
I didn't see that goal. Tell me about it.
Oh, Alessandro Diamante. It was a free kick from about 3 miles out. It was a stunning free kick, and he just absolutely smashed it into the top corner, and the Brisbane goalkeeper just didn't stand an absolute chance of getting anywhere near it. So United go through, and they face Melbourne.
Did you say no? So no pressure on Diamante for that goal kick then, obviously, for that free kick.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, was it Diamante? Was it?
Yeah, Diamante. The Mitsubishi Diamante.
Absolutely, I remember those, the black diamonds. Yes. So what's happening? Who are you picking in the playoffs then, mate? Who are you picking? I mean, Sydney.
Even though Sydney haven't been playing the greatest lately, I still think you can't go past them. They play Perth Glory on the weekend, and in the other semi-final, Melbourne City play Western United for the right to meet in that grand final, which is on over the weekend. So that will be interesting to see. As I say, disappointing way for the Phoenix to finish, but they've got a good squad already shaping up for next season, and Ufuk Talai, the coach, has already turned down an opportunity to go to Melbourne Victory to stay with the Phoenix, so that's good to see from him. And Ulysses Davila, the Mexican, and Gary Hooper have both signalled their intentions to come back again. And, of course, Stephen Taylor, the rock at the back in the defence, is signed up for another 2 years. So good signs.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, we've lost Liberato Cacachi, haven't we? He's going to head off to Belgium. He could be anything, mate. I still think I heard Bosnich talking him up in the weekend and just saying basically sky's the limit for that fella.
Absolutely. He's a great left back and could fit in to pretty much any league in the world at the moment, the way he's been playing. I think the club he's signed for is not exactly one of the more well-known clubs in Belgium. So hopefully he'll get picked up by a bigger club, once he gets over there and shows what he can do. I mean, we've already seen how well Sarpreet Singh can do, even though he's off to Nuremberg for a season on loan. Of course, his Bayern Munich team just picked up the Champions League on the weekend. So exciting times ahead for him. And, I guess using that segue, really good
Yeah.
game, that final. Normally finals are really, cloak and dagger affairs, and you don't see much action at all. But a 1-0 game, and there was just an end-to-end football in that match.
It was. It was good to watch. I could have, I would have liked a few more goals. I thought it was funny how the ref just sort of seemed to they seemed to ignore VAR all game. It was like he said, no, saw it, no, never went to VAR at all for any of those decisions. And I thought some of them were kind of touchy. I didn't like the way that the Paris Saint-Germain guys were throwing themselves around all the time. Neymar was up to his usual tricks. It's just a disgrace, mate. Just a disgrace. Wasn't even touched, and he's rolling around like he had his leg amputated. So I was very happy, actually, that Bayern Munich won that. Robert Lewandowski, he would have won the Ballon d'Or if we had had one. Kingsley Coman was the guy that got the goal, of course, being a Parisianer himself. He came from Paris originally. So that makes the twist of the knife just a little bit deeper, cuts a little bit deeper for poor old PSG. And it was a victory for football, if you ask me, mate, over sports washing Qatari sovereign wealth fund owned PSG, who are basically just trying to buy titles all over the place, mate. You can buy your title in France all you want, but you're not going to buy it in Europe, mate. Same goes for Man City.
Yes, absolutely. And Bayern Munich, worthy winners, their 6th Champions League title. They now have the same as Liverpool, of course. Still a long way off Real Madrid with their 13 titles. Still a wee way to go for the other clubs in Europe. But that format they had in Portugal of just the one-off games, it proved very popular with especially the fans in Europe, but also I think fans back here really grasped the concept. And you never know, they've said that the TV deal runs for another 3 or 4 years, so they have to go back to the original format. But I'd like to see at some stage in the future maybe having this one-off Champions League format maybe every couple of years or every 4 years or something like that.
Okay, couldn't disagree with you more. I've heard a bit of this talk. These one-off matches, etc. And so, it's been so much more exciting. Hang on, mate. Let's just look at the facts. We had 2 semi-finals this year, both 3-0. Last year, we had 2 of the most exciting 2-legged semi-finals we've ever seen in the Champions League. Don't take away the home and away. You've got to have the home and away, mate. You've got to have the home crowd barracking. You've got to allow that comeback, that epic proportion comeback that Liverpool so rightfully, that we do every bloody year, it seems like, in the Champions League. And if it would have just been all over in Barcelona, 3-0, wouldn't it? The year before last, we would have been out of the Champions League. So I could not disagree more, mate. I like the idea of having a tournament all based in one place, get it all over and done with. But when you've got the time, mate, home and away, nothing beats it, just for the drama and everything like that. And I think also, because of the money it pulls in, I can't see a way for changing anytime soon.
Oh, no, I agree with that sentiment. But I just thought for something different it was good. And because Liverpool weren't involved, I don't care about the second legs.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't care about it this time. And I definitely don't want it. I definitely don't want it when Liverpool are in next year, mate. Because going to Anfield has to be, it's a goal advantage, every time. So, that's purely, it's not really purely selfish reasons, man. Create an atmosphere on your ground. Now, what I reckon Man City and Man United will be all over an idea like that because they don't have any atmosphere, So they don't have any when they go to home. So, of course, they want to play it all in a tournament format. I like the idea of a tournament, but I love the idea of home and aways and comeback. I love the idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, after all, it is called a Champions League, isn't it?
That's right. And also, we had the Europa League final, didn't we, mate?
Yes.
3-2, won by Sevilla. That was a good game as well, actually. Goals and everything. First was 2-2 at half-time and made Sevilla the most successful team in competition history. They've now won it 6 times. Luke de Jong was the man of the match. He got 2 goals. Romelu Lukaku had a big old cry, wouldn't come out and collect his medal. And Antonio Conte, mate, is he the most miserable man in football? He's just never happy, is he? He's just a miserable man. He seems to go from club to club, stays about a year and a half, and then just bitches and moans at the board and everything. Oh, you don't get the players I want, and he goes. I don't think he's ever going to be happy. He's just a miserable man.
Does he not remind you of a certain Portuguese?
A little bit.
Just an Italian Jose Mourinho.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
He's
well,
probably been a little bit more successful than Jose in the last few years, though.
quite right, quite right. It was a good tournament for Sevilla, beating the Manchester United rejects and disguised as Inter Milan players. Of course, you mentioned Romelu Lukaku there. Do you think Man United have regretted maybe letting him go? He's been scoring goals left, right, and centre in Italy, and I mean he did score more than 20 goals in the 2 seasons he was there. So I mean he scored. He was what they the cricket term they refer to as a flat track bully, and that was pretty much what Lukaku was, because he never scored goals against any of the big teams. So, but he still, I mean, 20 goals in a season, still 20 goals in a season. I think they might regret letting him go.
Yeah, no, he's been banging them all. He just always scores goals, doesn't he, Romelu Lukaku? He's just a powerful man. Yeah, but you know, not coming on to collect your medal. Get over it, son. A little bit like Neymar having a big old ball as well. You know, come on, mate.
Get over yourself.
Absolutely. You'd never catch Andrew Robertson doing that, mate.
Quite right.
Also,
right.
in other football news, mate, the arrest of slabhead Man United captain Harry Maguire. God, it's going good for Man United at the moment. Spent over £40,000 on alcohol, a couple of bottles of Dom Perignon. The next thing you know, he's fighting with the cops in the slammer. Goes slabhead, and he's there for a couple of days. Don't think he'll be Man United captain next year. The guy must be delusional, mate, because after they lost that semi-final as well, he said they thought they should have won. So obviously he's deluded anyway. Yeah. So that was a bit of a laugh over the last week. And of course, Ronald Koeman has been appointed Barcelona manager, but he may only be in the post for a couple of months because Barca president Bartomeu is currently in a bit of a power struggle with Lionel Messi, who's threatening to leave the club. Sounds like he's going to be ousted in the upcoming presidential elections, and Xavi is the hot tip to take over as coach once Bartomeu is ousted. Kind of a weird thing for Ronald Koeman to take that job. He was coach with the Dutch side, doing really well, and he might not really be coaching them for very long. So it's kind of a strange move.
Yes, and I see the president announced yesterday that he'd been talking with Jurgen Klopp. Funnily enough,
yeah,
I really can't believe that actually happened. But yeah, it's a bit of a poison chalice at the moment, the Barcelona job. So it'll be interesting to see what goes down there. Koeman's already announced that Luis Suarez is free to leave, as many others, including
lots of others. Yeah.
Griezmann. Although the tables might have turned for Philippe Coutinho. It looks like Koeman is keen to keep the former Liverpool player, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Barcelona have a release clause for Lionel Messi. Apparently, it's £681 million. So anyone willing to pay that, good luck to you. I don't think you're going to beat the FIFA fair play rules around
financial fair play restrictions.
Yeah, so
no.
Good luck with that.
That's always a joke. That's always a bit of a laugh when they put in now, how much should we make it? They put in an outrageous figure. But of course, he had that put in there after Neymar's clause got filled when he moved to PSG. They put that 200 and something million pound clause in there, thinking no one would ever meet that. PSG stumped up. So now they go even more stupid phone number figures, don't they? So, very interesting. I can't see Messi leaving Barcelona, though, mate. Can't really see that.
No, can't see that happening. And what I did see happening over the weekend, though, was the mighty Vodafone Warriors picking up another win.
Ooh. They did, mate. Round 15 of the NRL. We're on the race to the semi-finals. Only 5 rounds to go. And the dream is still alive for the Warriors, even if it will probably end in disappointment. The Warriors beat the bottom-placed Bulldogs 20-14 to hang on to the top 8 coattails in Sydney with Cody Nikorima, a real live wire. He was the star of the show, partnering new boy Paul Turner in the halves. He looked a bit of a live wire as well, and crossed for a couple of tries, which were both disallowed by the ref. Yeah, just waiting for no gasps there. We're used to that, aren't we? And of course, new forward hero Jack Murchie. He scored 2 tries, one of them under the high ball. It was absolutely fantastic. So love that. It didn't look good early on, though. The Doggies got out to a 10-0 lead. But once again, the boys held tough, built their comeback through good defence and clinical attack. Now, Turner, this young guy, he seems more of originally he was a fullback option, potential to play in the centres. But Chanel, we had a terrible training injury over the week. Chanel Harris-Tavita and Adam Kieran both smacking heads. Adam Kieran ended up with a broken nose, and Chanel Harris-Tavita ruled out with concussion. So Turner had his first grade game, and it was also great to see a return to form of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Rocket Roger. He's had a tough year away from his family, and he was back to his best. 26 carries, 334 running meters, 103 post-contact meters, 1 line break, 6 tackle busts, and a try. Good on you, Rog. Good to see you back. Elsewhere, the big story of the round was the referees clamping down on crusher tackles again, with a bit of heat around the press conference after the Storm versus Eels game with Storm coach Craig Bellamy, who is a bit of an angry man, let's be fair, accusing the Eels of taking dives and milking for penalties, with Eels boss Brad Arthur very upset at the suggestion. The best thing I saw this weekend in the NRL was giant 110 kg Raiders prop Josh Papali chasing down and ankle tapping speedy 77 kg Titans fullback Jamal Fogarty. Now, this was awesome. It was a bomb. Jamal Fogarty caught it in the end goal, ran to the 20-meter line, tapped it, ran, broke through, did a little step, was free to go, ran like 65 meters, and Josh Papali, big man, dived full length, ankle tapped him. It was awesome. And the guy dropped the ball too. He dropped the ball. It was the best play I've seen all year. Honestly, it was fantastic. So if you get a chance, look that up. Results from NRL round 15, the Eels 14 beat the Storm 0. Not hard to see why Craig Bellamy was unhappy there. They blanked for only the 4th time in their history. And Brandon Smith had a broken jaw, which is he got smashed in the face, broken jaw, missing 2 teeth, has to get it wired up, drinking through a straw. And the guy that did it, no suspension, nothing, didn't even get a penalty. Crazy. Panthers 38 beat the Sharks 12. Broncos lost to the Dragons 24-28. Broncos just can't get a trick. Titans lost to the Raiders. The West Tigers 16 lost to the Roosters 38. The Rabbits 56 beat Manly 16. And on Sunday, the Bulldogs lost to the Warriors, as we talked about. And the Knights blanked the Cowboys 12-0. The latter, the Warriors are among a cluster of 4 teams who are 2 wins adrift of the 8th place Cronulla Sharks with 5 rounds to go. So we've sort of got 2 tables. 8th place Cronulla Sharks on 16, then Tigers, Dragons, Eels, and Warriors all on 12. So we're still in the hunt for the playoffs, mate. Warriors, 5 games remaining. Our next game is this Saturday against the Knights at 5 p.m. and we finish kind of a tough run: Eels, Sharks, Raiders, and Seagulls. Win all those, though, we'll probably be in the final. There you go.
Quite right. I see the Broncos, was it yesterday or today, have said that they've offered Anthony Seibold $1 million to leave the club.
Yeah, the chief executive referred to him as cancer. Very nice. I've heard a few rumours. I'm not going to get into any plagiarism on this podcast. I have heard some rumours about what is going on at the Broncos. And let's just say he's maybe got his fingers in pies that perhaps he shouldn't have his fingers in. Yeah, know your age, Anthony. Know your age. That's all I'm going to say. He should. Yeah, it's kind of, the stories are horrible, and also his daughter having problems and all sorts of things based around all the hassles that he's having as well. She's self-harming, all that sort of stuff going on. So, mate, just take the money, piss off, and be done with it. I would. I mean, why would you want to be amongst all that toxicity at the moment? I just don't have no idea.
Yeah, just as you say, leave the club and get back to your family and get sorted out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's what he should do. So that's our league wrap for round 15, NRL round 15.
Excellent. Well, let's have a look at what's going on in the world of rugby. And Super Rugby, of course, the Australian competition is still going on. And I just found out the other day that they actually have a finals format for their competition.
Oh.
Yeah, the winner of the round robin goes automatically through for the final, and 2 will play 3, and then the winner of that will play the first place team for the title. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how the VAR, TMO, third umpire, etc., was ruining the theatre of sport. Well, another clanger over the weekend saw a shocking try awarded to the Brumbies in a 38-11 win over New South Wales. The Brumbies halfback was a good 2 yards in front of the kicker before dotting down, but the good old TMO says no clear evidence of offside, you can award the try. Of course, the commentators just lost it justifiably, and yet another case of third official getting the call wrong. So is the video replay working or not? As we've talked about in the past, you can have all the technology in the world, but if the person, working on that gets it wrong, it's just a waste of time, really, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, it's still open to interpretation, isn't it? I mean, it's
Oh,
not like, it's not like the thing in the tennis where it can just beep if the ball's out. So those sorts of things, like crossing the goal line. We never had a problem with the Hawkeye crossing the goal line until this year. We had the first one in 9,000 games, which went wrong. Yeah, when it's a decision like that, it should be super easy. I just do not understand how, when it's just a line across the field. I mean, I can understand if you're trying to pick a forward pass, if you're trying to rule on obstruction, there's prone to interpretation. Yeah, so you're always prone to interpretation from the person making the decision. So,
I watched another replay of it this morning before we recorded this, and the guy kicking the ball was on the 22 line. So, I mean, there's a big white line there.
There's a line there.
2 yards in front of it. So what the TMO was looking at, I'll never know. But, in the other game, the Reds have thumped Richard Kahui's Western Force 57-5, and they sit clear last on the table with just 2 points from 6 games. The Brumbies, with former Warriors Solomon Akata in their side, are first on 23. Reds are second on 21. New South Wales third on 15, and they're just 1 point ahead of the Rebels, who have a game in hand. In the UK, the Gallagher Premiership has resumed with top-of-the-table Exeter defeating Sale 32-22. Second place, Bristol beat Gloucester 33-24, while already relegated Saracens beat Harlequins 38-24, and currently sit on minus 57 points following their salary cap breach.
Minus 57?
Yes, they got punished. They got punished by 100 points when they were found to have gone well over the salary cap, and of course,
100 points. What's the point? What?
Well,
how are you going to do anything?
The officials decided that docking them 100 points meant that they were going to get relegated, regardless of how well they did throughout the season. So,
That's funny. That's bizarre.
Yes. In other games, Wasps, Northampton and Bath, the other winners over the weekend. Exeter sit on top with 55 points, followed by Bristol, Wasps and Sale holding the top 4 spots, and they're followed by Bath and Northampton. In the Guinness Pro 14, Leinster lead Pool A by 21 points over Ulster after beating Munster 27-25 over the weekend, while Pool B is led by Edinburgh, who beat neighbours Glasgow 30-15 to lead by 5 points over Munster. In a rejig competition, the top 2 teams from each pool will meet in the semi-finals after next weekend's final 15th round. And in local rugby, in the Wairarapa Bush competition, Carterton and Eketahuna drew 23 all. The mighty Greytown got up to beat East Coast 26-18, with Marist and Martinborough the other winners. We're going to semi-finals next week. Marist will play Martinborough, and the mighty Greytown will host Eketahuna in that Wairarapa Bush competition. So it's all happening.
Local sports. I remember those. They were so much fun.
So this weekend, I'm going to get down to East Street Rugby Ground and cheer on the mighty Greytown in their semi-final.
Good on you, mate. Good on you. Fantastic.
Yeah, watched a bit of other sport over the weekend, and a hat trick of wins for Ford Mustang driver Scott McLaughlin has extended his lead in the Supercars Championship across the Tasman. He won 3 out of 3 races in Darwin and has now won 8 of 18 races in the 2020 competition, even surpassing the great Peter Brock for race wins and picking up his 50th and 51st victories on Sunday. The drivers are off to Townsville this weekend for another super sprint with 3 races as the teams all ready themselves for another tilt at Bathurst in mid-October. McLaughlin leads the championship by 177 points. He's basically taking the piss in that competition. Jamie Whincup in second, and fellow Kiwi Shane Van Gisbergen a further 168 points back.
He's going to need them to dock 100 points for them to have any chances, huh?
Well, not even that would help, I
Yeah,
think.
even
Um,
yeah, true.
I mean, he bowled the competition with 2 rounds to go, I think it was last year in the Supercars Championship. So if he wins it again this year, it'll be 3 years in a row. But I think it'll be the last you see of him in Supercars because with that Penske team, I think he's heading off to do some driving in the States next year.
He was actually supposed to be doing some of that this year. And of course, the whole COVID thing hit. He went over there, did a couple of test drives, did very well apparently, and was all set to be signed up. And then this all happened. He came back, he was also very successful. Him and Van Gisbergen were still 1 and 2 when they took on the esports as well, weren't they?
Yes.
So
yeah.
really, really interesting to see that translates for both of those guys. Whereas Scott Dixon just said, nah, not even any of that. Mind you, he's probably on better coins, so he probably didn't need to.
Well, right. Yes, a good result for, if you look at it in a year's time, you'll say it was a good result for Scott Dixon, but I think he was a bit annoyed at the way the race finished yesterday. So disappointing for him to come runner-up again for the third time.
And leading for most of the laps too, you know.
Yeah, and leading for most of the race. Moving on, for baseball fans, the Australian Baseball League is looking at basing one of their 2 conferences in Auckland for all of the summer season. The COVID pandemic has heavily disrupted plans for the upcoming season, and Baseball Australia CEO Cam Vale told Stuff one solution being looked at is to base 4 of the league's 8 teams in New Zealand for the entirety of the competition. He said, we're looking at finalising our schedule next week, but we've got 2 options out to the teams, and they're both taking a lot of consideration. But the one that's high up there is to have the 2 conferences where the 4 teams in each of them would only play against each other. As part of that, 2 Australian teams and Geelong Korea would be prepared to relocate the majority, or in Geelong Korea's case, their entire season in Auckland. He went on to say, in difficult circumstances, this is exciting for us all, although acknowledging we've still got a long way to go as far as all the processes we have to meet and talk to governments and other key stakeholders. It would give Auckland Tuatara fans a bonanza of baseball to watch this summer, although Vale said the season wouldn't be as long as it usually is, and they're looking at options around a 20, 24 or 30 game season for each team. But how amazing would that be, lighting up North Harbour Stadium over the summer with, and possibly I was talking to Dale Budge the other day, who is media manager in Tuatara. He was saying they've had requests from the likes of the San Diego Padres and Texas Rangers to bring out minor league teams for summer training and just to play games against Australian Baseball League opposition. So how good would that be for Auckland and, well, for the rest of the country? Because I know for a fact I'd be leaving Greyfriars Motel for a weekend and coming up and having a look.
Yeah, baseball's on the rise, mate. It definitely is. And especially in Auckland, on the shore here, really, really popular. It's got a real buzz about it. North Harbour looked amazing last year. I'm sure it's going to look even better this year, you know. And you get it, you know, you get it there in the early evening and the sun's going down. It's just an awesome place to be, isn't it? The cool feeling, the baseball. It's a different sort of sporting feel to it than your general sort of football match. And I know a lot of people that went there for the first taste last year are definitely going back this year. I've bought my Tuatara jersey this year, so I'm going to get up there. I'm looking forward to going to them. And wouldn't it be amazing to go up there and see like a double or triple header? Man,
absolutely, so cool. Yeah. The format that they're looking at will be fantastic. With, as you say, 2 games on a day, be just magnificent, and the lights there are fantastic for baseball, as we saw last year. And yes, I was lucky enough to do a bit of ground announcing before we left Auckland, and the actual entertainment at the ground.
Give us a sample.
Oh no, we won't go into that.
Come on!
Well, I must admit, I do take a bit of pride in giving one of the players their nickname, which is stuck, and that is number 11, centre fielder, Downtown Max Brown.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I should have had to encourage you to do that, mate. That was fantastic. Beautiful. Great work. Great work. Love it.
Yes, lots to look forward to for baseball fans. Something else that came up over the weekend was reported in the Herald by Dylan Cleaver. Not that I was able to read the article because I don't want to pay to read their misspellings and bad grammar. The deal between Sport New Zealand and Sky Sport on the commercialisation and commodification around school sport. There's a debate raging in public about community sports trying to entice kids back to sports by putting the focus on fun rather than competition. But this new deal will see school sports streamed exclusively on Sky Sport. And former Radio Sport and now News Talk ZB host Martin Devlin says this is clearly about making money for Rob Waddell and Sky Sport. I don't know if you saw the article.
I did.
Seen any?
I didn't.
I really don't know what way to think. I mean, I can certainly see Devlin's point of view in the fact that Sport New Zealand is getting involved in something which encourages competition in sports and kids wanting to win. Yet on the other hand, they're promoting participation in sport, and they don't want to see kids getting too competitive too early in life. So it's a bit of a backflip from Sport New Zealand.
Yeah, I guess the key here for me, anyway, is why are they televised? You know, are they doing this for profit, or are they doing this to promote the kids' sport? You know, why exactly? And I think that's what Martin Devlin was trying to get at as well. He just said he just wanted some transparency about what's going on. You know, where's the money going? If there is a lot of money, and also putting, you know, apparently the kids will have to sign waivers. Okay, so if they're going to if they won't sign a waiver, they have to stand down for that game. Now, also, if they're on the field and say something happens where maybe there's an act of violence, or you know, they lose in the last minute and something happens, you know, a kid loses control or something like that. Who's actually educating these kids to come up with the control to sort of, because once you televise, you're elevating them to the status of elite athletes, aren't you?
Yep.
So they're having to start to deal with all that goes with it. It's just a really tricky thing, because this is amateur sport at its purest and most beautiful, and that we don't want to take anything away from that. And by televising it, provided you're not making money out of it, but they're commercializing it. So it is so tricky. You look at something, I mean, it's a big parallel to draw, because it's, you know, you're talking economies of scale here. But if you look at the American college system, I've often thought, how can they fill up stadiums of 60, 50, 100,000? Everyone's paying. There's a massive economy. Those universities are making so much money, yet it is completely illegal for any of those players to get rewarded in any way if they get, you know, while they're at school. Now, is that right? I don't think that's right either. So, you know, we're sort of trying to sort of take that American college model, but that's not right. So I think we need to develop our own model. It needs to be all transparent. All the money that's earned by it, I can understand if someone needs to take a wage if they're part of the production, or if they, you know, I completely understand that someone, but all the profit should not be pumped back into Sky Sport or anything. Most of it should be put back to the school, coaching, the grassroots, you know, all those sorts of things. And I just think the transparency is what's lacking here.
Yeah, I agree totally. And yeah, I mean, having been involved with baseball previously, I mean, it was great to see some national championship finals on Sky Sport before COVID shut everything down, and hopefully that continues. But yeah, it's as you say, it's a tight rope to walk, and hopefully the powers that be have got it set up properly, so it does, you know, help out sports, because I know for the sport of baseball, getting coverage on Sky Sport is huge for that.
Absolutely.
Can only encourage more kids. But anyway, on to things a bit more exciting and fun. We'll continue our selection of the All Blacks for any upcoming tests that may come around. And we did the backs last week. So let's move to the forwards this week. And yeah, loose forward.
Wow.
Contenders.
Wow. What a list here, mate. What a list. The loose forward contenders. Here we go. Give me half an hour. Sam Cane, Hoskins Satutu, Adi Savia, Akira, I always struggle with this.
Ioane.
Dalton Papali'i, Lachlan Boshier, Luke Jacobson, Duplessis Karifi, Tom Sanders, Alan Grace, Dylan Hunt, Makili Marintul, is that right? Probably didn't. Shannon Frizzell and Reed Princep. Now, probably, if I'm looking at this list, it's definitely the top half of the other favourites. But Shannon Frizzell's been an All Black. He's down the bottom. He picked up his form. But so who are your top three, mate, from that list?
Yeah, well, I'm picking a newcomer and a couple of old hands. I've got Hoskins Satutu at number 8. I just think before he got injured, he was the standout loose forward in the competition of any of the loose forwards, regardless of whether it was number 8, open side or blind side. He was just an outstanding form, and I think he was going to be set to play in the North-South game, which has been postponed now. So, yeah, Hoskins Satutu I've got at number 8. I've got Sam Cane at open side. I know he struggled a bit with injury during the Super Rugby, but I still think he is the best of a really good bunch. I mean, boy, there was some close selections in there with Lachlan Boshia and Dylan Hunt.
Yeah.
Both had outstanding Super Rugby competitions. And Dalton Papali'i, he really impressed as well. But I've gone for Sam Cane. And on the blind side, although I think they'll probably just play left and right, I've plugged for Adi Savia. So Satutu, Cane and Savia are my 3.
I think those are hard to argue with, mate. I mean, Hoskins Satutu, he was the form number 8. Sam Cane, well, they're going to pick him. He's the captain. So Adi Savia at 6, probably not his best position. But Adi can play any 3 of those, can't he? And also, if you pick a bigger unit off the bench, someone like Dalton Papali'i off the bench, or Shannon Frizzell maybe, I don't know. Dalton Papali'i, he looks impressive. I really like, not big, raw-boned, quick. So I'd put him on my bench. But yeah, I can't argue with your 3 there, mate. If Satutu's not injured, he's definitely my number 8 too.
Okay, on to the locks. We've got another plethora of great locks to choose from. Of course, you got Sam Whitelock, Patrick Tuipulotu, Josh Goodhue impressed me for the Blues this year. Scott Barrett, he will be in the running if he's fit. Quinton Strange and Mitchell Dunshea from the Crusaders both impressed me during the season. And who could go past the Highlanders pair of Parry Parkinson and Manaki Selby Rickett?
Just for their names, for a start. Paddy Parkinson, Manaki Selby Rickett. Just sounds great. For me, mate, there's only. I mean, if Scott Barrett is fit, I'd probably have him in ahead of Patrick Tuipulotu. But Patrick Tuipulotu has played probably some of the best rugby I've ever seen him play this year. So I'd have him in, and Sam Whitelock fits himself, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
a few props there for you to go through.
Those were a lot. Yeah, mate. Props. Joe Moody, Nepo Lalala, Ofa Tungafasi, Karl Puanukuafi, Angus Taubau, and Tyrell Lomax. God, we've got some. All of a sudden, we're developing some real good talent at prop, aren't we, mate?
Oh, we certainly are. It was interesting too after Owen Franks was left out of the World Cup squad last year. Everybody thought, my word, if we can leave the likes of Owen Franks out, we're really strong in the prop area. And you look through those names, and I mean, there's probably 4 of those 6 that would go into any international side in the world. I've plugged for Joe Moody and Ofa Tungafasi. I think Offa's had probably his best season in a Blues jersey for a long time. And, Joe Moody, just Mr. Reliable on the loosehead side. Really don't think you can go past him.
Yeah, I can't argue with those either. Although Nepo Lalala's a comer again. He's picked up his game. Like you say, Ofa Tungafasi. My God, he is awesome. His defence, especially this year, just an absolute beast in defence. And it's good to see Carl coming back to form, mate. Big Carl. I was a big fan of him when he made his debut with the big moustache and his redemption story coming from Dorman to All Black prop. As an older man, I thought that was a cool story, and it's good to see him finding some form as well. He's just a beast of a scrummager, so I'd have him somewhere in the mix as well. But I can't argue Joe and Ofa. Nepo maybe just bubbling under there, but no, good call. Then we get to the hookers, mate.
Yes.
Cody Taylor, Dane Coles, Ash Dixon, Asofo Omoa, and Kurt Eklund. Cody Taylor, Dan Coles, Ash Dixon, Asafa Omoa, and Kurt Eklund. Once again, we're stacked in the hooker department.
Yeah, we certainly are. A few years ago, before Dane Coles came to prominence, we were struggling for number twos. But with the emergence of Cody Taylor, who's been around for a few years now, and Ash Dixon seems to have been revitalised over the last couple of years. The youngster, Asafa Omoa, has played very well for the Hurricanes this year. And the real comer in this group, I think, is Kurt Eklund. He sort of came from nowhere in the Blues squad this year. I don't think anybody knew who Kurt Eklund was before the season started. But I don't think you can go past Cody Taylor at the moment. I've only really got him ahead of Dane Coles because Coles has been in and out of the Hurricane side with a few niggly injuries this season. So I've gone for the reliable Cody Taylor as hooker.
Yeah, I can't argue either because I also think Dane Coles is a perfect solution to come off the bench. 20, 30 minutes to go, come off the bench, do some of his skullduggery around the side of the rucks, get them all racked up. I think he's perfect option off the bench. So I can't argue with Cody Taylor. And Cody Taylor, let's be honest, the last 2 years, he's probably been, well, he has been the number one hooker. Just, not just because of injuries. I think his form has propelled him to that position. So, yeah, hard to argue with Cody Taylor, mate.
Quite right. I've named a reserves bench I've plugged for Dylan Hunt, just narrowly ahead of Dalton Papali'i, but you certainly make a good argument for Papali'i, given the fact that he can play 7 and 6. For the lock come blindside flanker reserve, I've got Scott Barrett bracketed with Mitchell Dunshea. Barrett would obviously be in there if he's fit. And the reserve props, Nepo Laulala and Angus Ta'avao. And as we just talked about, Dane Coles as the reserve hooker.
So we haven't really got into too many arguments about the forwards, have we? Really? Bit of a straightforward pick. So let's just sum it all up, mate. Let's start in the front row. A front row of Joe Moody, Ofi Tungapasi, and Cody Taylor. Second row of Sam Whitelock and Patrick Tuipulotu, and our loose forwards of Sam Kane, Adi Savia, and Hoskins Katutu. And number 8, that's a pretty fair forward pack. Let's hope we get to see them play.
Yes, I don't think there'll be too many arguments between the selection panel of All Blacks coach Ian Foster and his fellow selectors. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And as I mentioned, the North-South game looks like it's been postponed for a couple of weeks. They still haven't confirmed whether it will be in Auckland or Wellington yet. So we've just got to wait and see what happens there. I think you'll find if the COVID restrictions stay at level 2 in Auckland after the weekend, you'll probably find that game will be at Eden Park. But we've just got to wait and see on that one.
A bit like our life at the moment. We've just got to wait and see, don't we?
We
do. Got to wait and see. We're getting bloody good at it. Okay, let's just quickly go to the NBA. Let's just go to the NBA. The Eastern Conference bracket is well underway. The Milwaukee Bucks lead the Orlando Magic 3-1. Yesterday, the Toronto Raptors wrapped up their series against the Brooklyn Nets 4-0. And they are going to play the Celtics in the next round, who beat the Philadelphia 76ers by 4-0 as well. And the other game in the Eastern Conference bracket at the moment, Miami 3 games ahead of the Indiana Pacers 3-0. In the Western Conference, the Los Angeles Lakers lead the Portland Trailblazers, who are going real good. They won the first game. Los Angeles have bounced back and won the next 2. They're leading 2-1. Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, Los Angeles Clippers, they were a lot of people's pick to go all the way. 2-2 yesterday. Luka Doncic for the Dallas Mavericks, absolutely dominating with a 3-pointer just to win at the buzzer. That was fantastic. He got a triple-double. Oh, absolutely amazing. Hey, what a player he is. Denver Nuggets behind the Utah Jazz 3-1. And the Houston Rockets, old mate Martin's team, with playing their small ball basketball, 2-1 ahead of Steven Adams and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And in the NHL, the ice hockey playoffs in the East, we're up to the semifinals. Flyers, the Philadelphia Flyers are playing the New York Islanders, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are playing the Boston Bruins. The Bruins currently lead that series 1-0. And in the West, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. What a team name. They currently lead the Vancouver Canucks 1-0 in the Western Conference. And the Colorado Avalanche are playing the Dallas Stars, and the Stars are leading it 1-0 in that one.
Yes, Major League Baseball and the American League in the East. The Yankees just holding on by percentage points over the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Rays actually swept the Yankees last week, 3-0 in a big series. The Yankees, their injury list is almost as long as their roster list at the moment. But hopefully Aaron Judge will be back this week to collect with a few more home runs. Rest of that division, you've got the Blue Jays in third, followed by the Orioles and the horrible Boston Red Sox, the first team to lose 20 games this current season. In the Central...
Rebuilding.
Yeah, rebuilding, all right. Ripping it down and starting again. In the Central, Minnesota Twins lead the way. Cleveland are a game and a half back, followed by the White Sox, Detroit, and Kansas City. In the West, Oakland leading the way. They've got a 4.5 game lead over the cheating Houston Astros, and they're followed by the Texas Rangers, Seattle Mariners, and the Los Angeles Angels. Just mentioning that about the Houston Astros, just waiting just to see if Martin Reed's awake and watching the whole podcast. In the Central, Chicago Cubs have got a 3-game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals, but the Cardinals have only played 17 games and because of a few COVID test results earlier in the season. Cincinnati Reds are third, followed by Milwaukee Brewers and Pittsburgh languishing in last place in the Central. In the West, the Dodgers, the first team to win 20 games this season. They're now 22-8, followed by the Padres, who are having a good season and just finished a run of, I think it was 4 games in a row where somebody hit a grand slam home run. So
yeah, I saw that.
Pretty amazing stuff from the Padres. And Fernando Tatis Jr. is just playing out of his absolute skin. The son of former Major Leaguer Fernando Tatis. Tatis Jr. is just an incredible player and shortstop for the Padres, playing alongside Manny Machado, who signed for a big deal there last year. San Francisco Giants are third in that, followed by the Colorado Rockies and the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are 8.5 games out of first place. So they've got a bit of work to do in there. It's pretty much American sport covered for this week. Must be time for the Greyfriars Hotel Top 5.
Five.
Five.
Yeah, five. See, we've included some flashy new transitions and sounds for you there, listeners. Okay, this week's top five. We've decided to sort of change it up a little bit this week, and we've gone with favourite sports movies this week, Macca. Favourite sports movies, and we're going to kick it off with your number 5. Favourite sports movies, please.
My number 5 goes back to a cricket series that happened in the early 1930s, 1932, 33 to be 31, 32 to be precise, and it was the Bodyline series. It was a movie starring Australian Gary Sweet as the great Don Bradman, and Hugo Weaving, a great Australian actor, played the lead for the English team of Douglas Jardine. And it was a great telly movie. It was over 2 parts. I've thrown it in just because it was such a great little mini series. And Bodyline is my 5th favourite sporting movie.
You still got it on VHS, have you, Macca?
Oh, I've actually got the DVD now. I managed to upgrade that.
Have you? Ooh, DVD. Wow, flash. Okay, my number 5 is a movie called The Golden Hour. It's directed by a guy called Justin Pemberton, who is my cousin. So, yeah, a little bit, keep it in the family with this one. It's a documentary which tells the story of New Zealand's golden hour. Went on the 2nd of September 1960 in Rome. 2 Arthur Lydiard coached runners won Olympic gold. 21-year-old Peter Snell, we've talked about this on the pod before, won the 800 metres, and then Murray Halberg won the 5,000 metres. And it mixes in archive footage with recreations and candid interviews. Halberg talks about his battle with his disability. New Zealand Herald's Russell Belly praised the result as riveting and Our Chariots of Fire. It screened on TV prior to the 2012 London Olympics and was nominated for an Emmy Award in 2013. You should go and search it out. It's an amazing flick, and it's a true life history of New Zealand's greatest middle distance runner. It's called The Golden Hour, and it came out in 2012.
Yeah, it certainly is worth a watch. I've got the DVD of that one as well. Yes, I've watched that a couple of times. It's a really, really good documentary slash movie. So, yes, a fine
Oh, that's
choice, The Golden Hour. My number 4, we cross over to the UK and we go to a movie called The Damned United. And
I love that movie.
Great movie, highlighting
Love it.
44 days that Brian Clough was in charge of Leeds United after a successful career at Derby County, winning 2 titles with them and being picked up by Leeds United after the great Don Revie left to manage the England team. And Brian Clough, there's some great quotes attributed to him. My personal favourite is in an interview, he said, some pundits have said I'm in the top 5 of managers around the world. I don't think I could quite agree with that, but I'm definitely in the top 1.
He was a very humble man, wasn't he? And
He
Martin Sheen's performance is just amazing, isn't he? He basically becomes the man, doesn't he?
He does.
What a story. What a story. I mean, how, he was there for 42 days or something, wasn't he? Just over a month.
Days.
44 days. And they decided, we're not going to. But that movie, I mean, football's the biggest sport in the world. There's not that many good football movies.
No, I've got a few to mention in my dishonourable mentions.
But that movie, it encapsulates football, doesn't it? It really does. Even the training, I still remember when he first turns up to training with them in his little short shorts and bangs in a couple. Because Brian Clough, we have to remember, was a bloody good footballer as well. Played for England, and he could play as well. So I just love, the performances in that are fantastic. And it's also a great time capsule back to the 70s. Just the cars and the sets, the way the boardrooms are done. Great movie. Damned United, loved it. All right, my number 4. Oh, you finished?
Oh, I was just going to say Timothy Spall's portrayal of sidekick Peter Taylor was pretty good too. He played a magnificent part. And, of course, would Brian Clough have had the success that he had without Peter Taylor by his side? Probably not.
Probably not. No, you're damn right. Timothy Spall, one of my favourite actors, amazing performance, that one as well. Number 4, we're going to a sport that you absolutely love, mate. It's baseball. 2011, directed by Bennett Miller. It's called Moneyball. Love this movie. It's based on a true story. Michael Lewis's 2003 book of the Oakland Athletics baseball team's 2002 season and the general manager Billy Bean's attempt to assemble a competitive team. It's a movie for anyone who has ever dreamed to take on the system and fight the odds the way that you can, when you're up in the insurmountable odds. Like if you're like Liverpool playing against Manchester City, you have to go and find the players, regardless, find the players that fit into your system the best way. And that's exactly what they did. They had a very tight budget and he has to outsmart those richer clubs. And it's a great movie. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor. Brad Pitt is great in it. Jonah Hill is absolutely fantastic as the Ivy League graduate Peter Brand, who comes in with all the figures and the spreadsheets and doesn't quite know how to communicate, does he? But no, it's a great movie, and it's more about it doesn't really show a lot of the sport itself. It's more about the inner workings, the machinations of the inside of a sporting organisation, and that's why I loved it so much. Moneyball is
absolutely, and one of the great quotes in that movie where Brad Pitt is portraying, as you mentioned, Billy Bean, and he's trying to get his point across to the scouts that you can't replace Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, and their closer, I can't remember. Oh, Jason Isringhausen. You can't replace them. What you're trying to do is replace their on-base percentage, or in Isringhausen's case, the ERA. But it's a great quote. It was just 3 words: adapt or die.
That's right. That's right. And that's exactly what it was about. I mean, when you can't find a way to win, you find a way to win.
Exactly.
Great movie. Loved it. Yes. What's your number 3? My
number 3, it's another true story, based around former Baltimore Orioles defensive end Michael Orr, and it's called The Blind Side. Just an amazing movie, and by all accounts, very true to the real story which is pretty amazing. And of course, Sandra Bullock, who played the part of Leanne Toohey, the mother in the family that basically adopted Michael Orr from the streets in Memphis, I think they were. But yeah,
Ole Miss.
Yeah, she won the Academy Award for Best Actor, Best Actress, I should say, that year. Yeah. So, yeah, just a tremendous portrayal of Michael Orr as a youngster, and when he was adopted by the Toohey family, and just how well he did, and what he eventually became. And yeah, it's a really interesting story, and there are actually quite a lot of stories like that in the NFL in particular.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Of young kids coming up through the grades and just being spotted by talent scouts of the franchises and coming up. I mean, Patrick Willis from the San Francisco 49ers, who will probably be in the Hall of Fame within the next couple of years. He was another one like that, growing up in Alabama, to parents who drank and took drugs and all that, but he found a way to get out of that and played football, and is now going to end up in the Hall of Fame at some stage. So lots of stories like that.
Yeah, The Blind Side's a beautiful story. It's a really beautiful story. It's it's heart-wrenching, isn't it, mate? It's really you know, it's sport once again is the backdrop. It's more about the story of the people, you know, and yeah, just the love, just the family, the you know, the love they show them, and they yeah, made me cry. That was a nice movie. That was a really nice movie.
Right.
My number three, Fire in Babylon, directed by Stephen Riley in 2010. Absolutely love this movie. Great movie. Documentary film about the record-breaking West Indian cricket team of the 70s and 80s, and how, under the captaincy of Clive Lloyd and Vivian Richards, they abandoned the cheerful losing mode known as Calypso cricket and decided to fight for what was right. They became formidably aggressive winners. It's a rousing film about ex-colonials uniting to assert their pride, to recover their dignity, and nothing gave them a greater desire to fight back than hearing Tony Greig, the deeply unpleasant South African-born cricket captain, saying he intended to make the Caribbean cricketers grovel. Well, it was just great to see him get his comeuppance in the movie. He certainly didn't make them grovel. It was more the other way around. It features stock footage and interviews with several former players and officials, including Colin Croft, Jarrett Murray, Joel Garner, Gordon Greenidge, Desmond Haynes, Michael Holding, Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards, and Andy Roberts, and music from Bob Marley and other reggae luminaries. It was nominated for a British Independent Film Award for Best Documentary. It's my favourite cricketing movie. Fire in Babylon is my number three.
Yes, it's an absolute cracker, that one. I had that in my honourable mentions, and all I can say is that's a very cool movie, man.
Beautiful, love it.
Yes, and of course, who can forget Colin Croft barging over Fred Goodall in New Zealand at Lancaster Park 40 years ago now, that would have been. They were pretty imposing, those guys.
They were, but to be fair, Fred probably deserved it. But 40 years ago, we weren't thinking that. But when you look back now, you sort of think, oh, you know, Fred wasn't being very nice to them either, really, was he? So
quite right.
Yeah. Okay, your number two.
My number two is it's another baseball movie, and it's similar lines to Moneyball. It gives you a really good insight in scouting in baseball, and it's called Trouble with the Curve, starring Clint Eastwood, who also directed the movie, along with Amy Adams and Justin Timberlake, who I far prefer as an actor than a singer. But that's just my musical preference.
That's another story.
It's a really good story of how scouts for years have relied on their eyes and ears watching baseball players coming up through the grades. And in this case, it's the old campaign of Clint Eastwood coming up against a young upstart based at the Atlanta Braves organization who's relying totally on statistics to pick players. Of course, in the statistics, you can't see if a hitter can face a slower pitch or a curveball, as is the case in this movie. So really interesting insight into the world of baseball scouting, how they work, how they operate, and really good movie, and another one with just a fantastic ending, seeing a young Latino pitcher being picked up by the Atlanta Braves ahead of the big hard hitter, and the
What?
scout loses his job.
I've seen it so many times. I've seen the movie, but I've never watched it. So I might go and watch it after this. So yeah, I've just got I've meant to watch it so many times, but sounds really good. So I will. I'll watch it after this. Okay, my number 2. I think you've probably seen this one. Most people have. From 1980, directed by Martin Scorsese, a movie called Raging Bull. It's a story of prizefighter Jake LaMotta and his downward spiral into self-destruction. It's not really a film about boxing, although some of the boxing footage in it is absolutely amazing. The way it moves around the ring and the slow motion blood scenes, all that sort of thing that Scorsese's so good at. It's a Heart of Darkness tale. It stars Robert De Niro as Jake LaMotta. He's a middleweight boxer whose self-destructive and obsessive rage, sexual jealousy, and animalistic appetite destroyed his relationship with his wife and his family. Also featured in the film are Joe Pesci in his first film role, and as Joey, his younger brother, who is just an absolute, psycho once again. And he helps him battle his inner demons. It was filmed in caustic black and white, which sort of almost helped glorify the violence in some way, even though it's not splattered red blood splatter everywhere. It's sort of it made it look even more realistic. And for the boxing scenes, De Niro gained approximately 27 kilograms to portray LaMotta in his later post-boxing years. Despite the mixed reviews, the film was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, and including Best Picture, Best Director, won 2, Best Actor for De Niro, and Best Editing. And after its release, it went on to garner high critical reputation, now often considered his Scorsese's magnum opus and one of the greatest films ever made. It's my number 2. It's Raging Bull.
Yeah, great movie. Robert De Niro, one of my favourite actors of all time. And just a role, it was almost, you could almost imagine Scorsese writing it for De Niro, couldn't you? The way that De Niro portrayed Jake LaMotta, and yeah, Joe Pesci is just outstanding, as he usually is. But yeah, great movie. I loved the fact that it was in black and white. It just, mate, gave it a bit more of an authentic look, I think, with that movie as against some of the other boxing movies that have been made.
Well, when I was doing the reading for that movie, and it was actually really interesting, Scorsese said that he didn't want to do a boxing movie. He didn't like boxing as a sport, didn't want to do it. They had to pressure him. They said, look, go to a boxing fight. Have a look at it. He watched it. He was like, oh, this is disgusting. All the blood, all that sort of stuff. So really, he just took images out of it. And then when he brought his consultants in to see the boxing guys, aficionados, in to see the scenes when he was filming them with De Niro, they were saying, oh, look, you've got your colours right. Those gloves are the wrong colours and all this sort of thing. And he thought, well, how can I know, I'll just make it black and white. So he actually he turned it black and white. So he came up with that idea sort of almost on the spot. So it's really interesting to find out the reasons he did that. But you're right, it gives it that real crisp, fresh, new look, even though it makes it sort of look old at the same time. Very strange, but great movie. Love that movie. Raging Bull.
Absolutely. On to my number 1, and
number one.
And my movie actually has the number 1 in the title. It's called 61. And it's a movie surrounding the 1961 baseball season when 2 young New York Yankees hitters by the name of Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris were trying to break Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs in a season. And as we all know, Roger Maris did eventually break that record with about 2 games to go in the season. Of course, it was the early on in the stage where they'd just moved up from a 158-game season to a 161-game season. And so a lot of people who are Babe Ruth fans thought that there should be an asterisk alongside 61. But thankfully that was quickly forgotten. And Roger Maris doing the 61 home runs in 1961. And the Yankees went on to win that World Series. But it was a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, again, that really got me interested in this movie. And a lot of the stuff that went on in 1961 that still goes on today in the game of baseball, which, as we know, is based around tradition and respect and all that sort of thing. But just to see how those guys lived their lives in 1961 as professional sports people. I mean, Mickey Mantle was well known as a heavy drinker, especially later in his career and when his career ended. But yeah, as a young 20-something year old, he just went out every night after every game. And I mean, games don't finish till,
no
10, 11 o'clock at night, and they're going out on the town in New York or wherever they are.
And they're going to play the next day.
And then play the next day. It's just, I don't know how they do it. But yeah, great insight and a great story. Just seeing everything that they went through. I mean, when Mickey got into some serious trouble during the season, he ended up flatting in the same apartment with Roger Maris and a lesser-known Yankees player, Bob Cerv. The three of them shared a two-bedroom apartment, and so that was
imagine.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. But yeah, really good movie, and it was directed and put together by Billy Crystal, who was well known as being a big Yankees fan. So a really good movie. 61 is my favourite sports movie of all time.
Yeah, I love that movie. It was I knew the story, but I didn't really know the details of it. I knew the fact that Roger Maris got the 61, but I didn't really know the race. And there was a race. It talked about, because Mantle was quite a bit ahead, and then he got a bit of an injury or something, didn't he? And then he got ahead. So it's sort of like this. It was neck and crop all the way. And like you say, the behind the scenes stuff, it's beautifully put together. Great movie. Really loved that movie. And it educated me. So I mean, that's what you want. No, you want to learn something.
Yeah.
And I certainly learned something from my number one. My number one sports movie from 2010. It's actually quite a few of mine from around 2010, 2012. 2010, directed by Asif Kapadia. It's a movie called Senna. My number one. It's a documentary film depicts the life and death of Brazilian motor racing champion Ayrton Senna. Now, what I love about this movie, the fact that I watched it with my wife and she never once complained. It's about motor racing, sport, and all that sort of thing. She watched it from start to finish. She didn't know anything about it. Didn't know who the Ayrton Senna was or anything. So for her, it must have been great to watch because it was like a full narrative. What I love about it is the fact that there's no voiceover. It's all done by talking heads. All the talking heads are talking heads at that time. So you're not actually hearing anything in retrospect. You're hearing people talk as they talked then. It focuses on his debut in the 1984 Brazilian Grand Prix until his death in the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix. So it's got that 10-year narrative arc, and it has particular emphasis on the rivalry with Alain Prost and all that sort of stuff, and it has interviews with his family and all that sort of thing as well. I absolutely loved it. I love the fact that it had no formal commentary. I love the fact it just dropped me in as an audience member. I felt like I was witnessing something as it happened. Steve Rose, writing in The Guardian, said that it praised it with the fact that with so much recorded footage of Formula One available, it had been possible to fashion Senna's story as a live action drama rather than a posthumous documentary. We're not so much hearing what happened in the past as seeing it happen before our eyes. And even for those who are not motor racing or even sports fans, Senna offers a heart-pounding thrill, heartbreaking emotional heft. And even though I knew how it ended, I was transfixed right to the very end, and it made me cry.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
For that reason, it's my number one.
I saw it at the film festival, I think, at the, I can't remember the theatre it was. It might have been the Civic. When I first saw it, and I've got the DVD now, and I've watched it 4 to 5 times, and it's just, I'm not a huge motor racing fan, although I've got in supercars over the last few years, but just as you say, it was just a great movie, and that scene of the drivers' meeting in Tokyo was just
in the cubicles.
Yeah.
When they didn't want to race because it was too dangerous.
Absolutely. Senna had some great battles with Frenchman Alain Prost, both on and off the track. And yeah, that was interesting to see that little sideline in the movie. But no, great movie, and it was certainly on my list of honourable mentions, alongside another football movie called United, which highlighted the 1958 Munich air disaster, and starred David Tennant was in that movie, the Scots actor.
Yeah.
Doug Ray Scott played the part of Matt Busby. Some baseball movies are on there: Field of Dreams, Bull Durham.
I had that.
Major Leagues 1, 2, and 3. And
The Natural?
The Natural, yeah, it's definitely on there. And who can go past that great movie about Harold Abraham's Chariots of Fire from 1981?
Absolutely.
Running along the beach in Scotland. I've got some shockers on my list.
Go on.
Three football movies: Goal 1, 2, and 3. Just terrible, absolutely horrible movies. I'm not a fan of Bend It Like Beckham either. That was a bit of a shocker, and yeah, that pretty much. I don't really want to go on too much about the dishonourable mentions.
No. Okay, I've got a couple of good movies that haven't been mentioned yet. Hoosiers, great movie about basketball, starring Gene Hackman from the 1980s. Really cool movie. Jerry Maguire, show me the money. That's a cool movie. Rocky. Except, speaking of boxing movies, I still love Rocky, but yeah, I went for Raging Bull. Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Who can ever forget that? When she came into the room and he was between two chairs. Never forget that scene. Happy Gilmore. As far as golf goes, it was, and Caddyshack. Funny golf movies. I had The Damn United. Remember the Titans. That's a cool movie as well. Very cool movie about American
football. There are a host of those American sports ones, a lot of basketball ones as well.
Road, Coach Carter. Yep. Yeah, there's lots of ones like that. I also had Hoop Dreams, which is a great doco on basketball. Won the Oscar for Best Documentary in the 90s. Point Break. I like that. That was a cool movie on surfing. And I'm sort of pushing the card out a little bit with this one, but it was one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's got a little bit of sport in it, so I'm putting it out there, The Big Lebowski. It's got 10-pin bowling all through it.
10-pin bowling, that's a sport?
Absolutely. The Dude.
Yes, quite right indeed.
So, thanks to Great Friars Hotel. That was our top 5 for this week.
Yes.
So that leaves us with nothing much to do except for you to come off the long run-up in this week, Macca.
Quite right. So I was going to have a crack at the NRL today about the sponsorship fiasco last week, when they and their major sponsor Telstra told the Warriors they had to lose their 22-year sponsorship with Vodafone due to it clashing. But I've decided to pass on that and bring up something that has grated on me for years: the lack of Halberg Awards, or even just recognition for our athletes who perform with great regularity on the world stage, or even just outside of New Zealand shores and get the odd mention on the news, but that's about it. This has been going on for years, while All Blacks, Black Caps, cricketers, Silver Ferns, netballers, and even men's softballers get awards and endless platitudes for competing in sports that most of the rest of the world don't even know about. Yes, I know we're very good at those sports, but they're sports we've picked up and made our own through our links to the British Commonwealth. Sports born in Britain like rugby union, rugby league, football, netball, cricket, etc., while other sports have been lumped in the class of, well, they're not really Kiwi sports, are they? I think basketball might argue with you there, given they're the only second in participation numbers to football in this country, while others continue to grow in New Zealand. Now, to my point on those athletes who have consistently performed on the world stage in the Earth's most competitive competitions, like the English Premier League, NBA basketball, NFL American football, IndyCar and supercar motor racing, and even Formula One. All Whites and former West Ham defender Winston Reid has played nearly 200 times for his club, while Burnley striker Chris Wood, who as a 16-year-old scored the winning goal for Hamilton Wanderers against the mighty Mount Albert Ponsonby 11 years ago. And in this last season, notched 14 goals in the Premier League season, a record for his club in the top flight, and only bettered by 12 other players in the league, such as Golden Boot winner Jamie Vardy, England and Spurs striker Harry Kane, and even Liverpool's Mercurial Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane, and Manchester City legend Sergio Aguero. It's pretty exalted company for the lad from Waikato, but will he get nominated for a Halberg Award? Probably. Will he be a finalist? Probably not. Will he win the award? Absolutely not. Another Kiwi export, Stephen Adams, plying his trade for the high-flying Oklahoma City Thunder. Again, probably nominated, but that's about it. And then there's a host of motor racing drivers. Scott Dixon, who's won the IndyCar Championship more times than I can remember and finished second in the Indy 500 yesterday, while Scott McLaughlin rules the roost along with fellow Kiwi Shane van Gisbergen in the Australian supercars. Will they even get a mention? I'm picking no. The bias towards athletes plying their trades overseas has gone on for years. Ricky Ellison, born and raised in Christchurch, won 3 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers in a career lasting 9 seasons. His son Rhett has played in the NFL too for the Minnesota Vikings and New York Giants. In addition to the Ellisons, Papakura-born David Dixon played 152 games over 13 years in the NFL with the Vikings, New England Patriots and Dallas Cowboys. In football, All Whites captain Ryan Nelson played 198 games for 3 teams in the Premier League over a 9-year period with Blackburn Rovers, QPR and Spurs after starring for DC United in Major League Soccer, while Winton Rufer produced superb results for Werder Bremen in Germany in the late 80s and early 90s, and brother Shane also played to a high level in Europe. In cycling, the likes of Greg Henderson and Julian Dean have been integral in their respective teams' success in cycling's Tour de France, while Nelson's George Bennett is one of the favourites for this year's event, following his success in the one-day classics recently. There are probably plenty of others who have excelled on the world stage without recognition at home that I've not mentioned. The Halberg criteria doesn't fit for all these athletes to qualify in the minds of the judges. They have to have won or medalled in their pinnacle event, like a world championship or Olympic Games. So the likes of the local netball champions and the softball Black Sox get more recognition than all of these people I've mentioned from memory. Only Scott Dixon of all these great Kiwi athletes has gone on to win a Halberg Award. Stick that in your cornflakes and have a think about it.
That's real. Yeah, it is something to think about, mate. Well, why was my question. Well, is it the judges? Is it the criteria? How do we, do you think it's a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. All our judges are former, Olympians and Commonwealth Games athletes, and they struggle to go past the sports that they're involved in. You remember the furore last 10 years ago when the All Whites won the Supreme Award for going unbeaten
I do.
in the Football World Cup, and everybody was up in arms. Mahi Drysdale was saying it's a travesty. Right. They won the Supreme Award. Yeah, but Mahi, they were in a competition involving the 32 best teams on the planet, and tried to qualify for it.
That's what I was going to say. Every single country in the world has a team that's trying to get there, mate. And when they got there, they didn't lose.
Exactly.
They played the World Cup champions and didn't lose. That was ridiculous. I thought they deserved to win it. But the furore, you're exactly right. Also, taking you back to a sport like tennis, you go back to like Kelly Evenden, Brett Stevens, Belinda Caldwell, all of those who were very, very, and before that, Chris Lewis, all of them very, very successful internationally. I think Belinda Caldwell made the semi-finals of the Australian Open. Very, very, very successful. Never did anything as far as that, but they all had to go and do it themselves, and that's almost that we always try and put the cart before the horse, go and be a world champion. Well, how do you become a world champion without getting support to start with? Do it yourself. And so if you do it yourself, you have to be incredibly talented, usually have a lot of money or a lot of support, and not everyone has that. So how many people fall by the wayside, It's just wrong, and I'm all with you. I'm completely with you.
Yeah, and
if we were in charge.
I'm not trying to decry the efforts of the likes of Valerie Adams and Lisa Carrington and all those great athletes, but it's just the lack of recognition. Chris Wood scoring 14 goals in the Premier League, that is just, he didn't win the Premier League, so that's why he won't be considered for an award. But Burnley's efforts in the top flight he's the person that scored the most goals in a season in the top flight in the
I know.
entire history.
I know. It's not good enough. It's not good
Crazy.
enough. You have to be Ronaldo.
Yeah, you do.
And even then, the All Blacks won the World Cup this year, so he ain't got a chance.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And just on a final note, congratulations to, I know it's a sport that we hammer pretty hard, but congratulations to Silver Ferns netballer Laura Langman on just an unbelievable career in the sport of netball. Most capped Silver Fern of all time and a world champion to boot. So congratulations on a great career to Laura Langman.
She's also got the best Kiwi accent of any woman ever. She just sounds so Kiwi, doesn't she?
Right.
Oh, I think we're really good. Yeah, but what an athlete that woman is. You're exactly right. All right, mate. That's another Hot Air Sports podcast. That's episode 16 in the can. Hey, look, if you like our top 5, if you like anything about this, we've got plenty more podcasts. You can check them out on Blue Sphere Sports Media. Isn't that right, Macca?
That's the one. And we're also on YouTube as well. Look up the Hot Air Sports Podcast channel.
Beautiful. Until next time, Macca, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.